Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the parking lot version. Hello, everybody, and yeah, it's another Jim and Rob parking lot reaction. And Jim, how you doing, my friend?
Good. It sure is hot in this parking lot.
But summery at the Tim Hortons, isn't it?
Very. The trees are in full bloom. The mosquitoes are in full bloom. Get away.
The local denizens are
Yep.
doing their thing. All right, Jim, today we are looking at, after we went to the Netflix theater, we're looking at Persuasion. We're going to give our quick, our parking lot reaction, as we've done with other films that have come out recently. This was released on Netflix just on Friday. You and I have now
Mhm.
both seen it. And yeah, just to kind of summarize for everybody, uh, the here's the log line from IMDb. 8 years after Anne Elliot was persuaded not to marry a dashing man of humble origins, they meet again. Will she seize her second chance at true love? It's movie stars, of course, Dakota Johnson, Cosmo Jarvis, Nikki Amuka Bird, Mia McKenna Bruce, Richard E. Grant, and the always sexy Henry Golding. Apologies for those who feel I've objectified Mr. Golding. But as a straight man, I too can go, oh my. uh, the sorry, Jim.
No, it's okay.
The film was directed. This is hilarious. It's written by Ron Bass, like of Stella Goddard Groove fame, and Alice Victoria Winslow. It's an ampersand. They wrote it together, and directed by a theater director, Carrie Cracknell. Anyway, with that out of the way, Jim, yeah, I'm dying. You know, I have an opinion on this
Yeah,
film.
sure.
But I would love to get your take on it first. What did you think?
Yeah, it was, for me, it was very, how to put it, easily digestible, I guess. It was, I don't know if they meant it to be as slight as it came out. It's a different take. I sort of wonder exactly what their hook was, other than to sort of modernize it, talk about fives and tens and rating people, and there's a couple other anachronistic details in the speech. And for me though, it was sort of the constant breaking of the fourth wall. I almost felt like I should be compensated for being part of the cast, because you're always being referred to or looked at by Miss Johnson. But yeah, they sort of wheeled that. There's, I don't want to give anything away. Two times in the final scene, she looks at us as if to say, "Eh," and also, her tone for somebody, not saying a spinster's character in this day and age is supposed to mope around a lot, but uh, she comes across as really sort of triumphant through most of it until they show her being sad. So the tone was really, the whole thing was a bit of a kind of, it seemed inconsistent to me. But you know, I don't know. I also haven't seen a lot of things with Dakota Johnson in them in the last few years. Boy, she's charismatic, but
Oh,
a little too winky through the whole thing. A little bit of breaking the fourth wall goes a long way for me. How about you?
you know what, Jim? I everything you said, like at an order of magnitude more intense. This film, this is now, in the interest of full disclosure, this is one of my favorite Jane Austen, or it is my favorite for a number of reasons. It's my favorite Jane Austen book. It's been my favorite Jane Austen adaptation. And when I say, okay, you know what, my favorite Jane Austen adaptation, that would be more honest. I have not deeply read until the last couple of weeks Jane Austen, but yes, I have. That has changed, and so yeah, boy, this film bugs me.
No.
But the other thing it does, Jim, is it bored me. At no
Mm.
time am I ever engaged in Anne Elliot's central problem. I find her, like as she was as a character, off-putting, uh, snotty, and there are, and it's spoiler zone stuff, so that'll have to wait for another show. But there are a
Mm.
couple of lines. Actually, I think I can regale you with one. I think I can
Sure.
regale
Yeah.
our viewers with one line. Anne is saying something to her older sister. Her older sister, and I'm going to paraphrase a bit, basically says, "You know, I don't know if you're being supportive or being rude, but as I don't hold you in much regard at all, I don't care." And I actually cheered for what is ostensibly one of the bigger jerks of the piece. And it's like,
Mm.
yeah, because the way I read that, or the read it, heard it, watched it, it was like,
Mhm.
she was saying what I wanted to say. I know what you're doing and I don't like it. Because there's a number of times where Anne Elliot is behaving and saying things in a way that kind of shows her contempt for everybody, and or not everybody, but a number of a number of characters in this, and in like to their face. Um, yeah, I found her very off-putting. I couldn't get behind her. But the other thing was, it's also, I don't know if you saw this, Jim, but it's a chatty piece, and
Mhm.
one of the, I mean, it's always tough to adapt, right? I'm not, but other people have done it where they're like, okay, how do we show this stuff? How do we show her inner thoughts in moments? How do we build moments that show what a wonderful person she is? And here it seems like the director went with the, no, we're going to talk about them, then we'll kind of half-ass show them, and gutting all the emotional impact that other adaptations manage to just kind of going, this is a key moment and we got to
Mm.
make sure it hits. And both in their own way, previous adaptations, I'm talking 1995 with Amanda Root and 2007 with Sally Hawkins, both could deliver on those key moments. By the end
Mm.
of it, you're totally with Annie Elliott. They're not perfect, but you're with her. You want her
Mm.
to overcome. You want her to have this second chance at love. This one, I'm like, I don't know why she deserved it. And yeah, the anachronisms I could deal with, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, like not a positive experience at all. What here? Let me ask you this before we. I mean,
Sure.
and of course, we're gonna, folks. We are gonna do a deep dive on this Sunday. Uh, it's it's one of those things I am passionate about how much I dislike this film. But I did want to ask you, one of the positives I can say, the cinematography. I don't think it had anything to do with the, like it's almost like the cinematographer was making a different movie, you know, or the
Right.
cinematographer was making his Persuasion while the director and the actors were making theirs. Um,
Mhm.
but I wanted to ask you, first of all, what did you think of the cinematography? Was there anything else that you're like, wow, this is really praiseworthy? And then what about that last song?
Yeah, I mean, it looked great. It always it's kind of fun to watch. If you haven't watched something English forever, I mean, we're kind of drowning in it in PBS if you watch that on any regular basis. But yeah, there was some. You sort of, even in a bad adaptation, you sort of feel that you've spent time there to some extent. Bath and that kinds of things. One just side note, um, the titles were kind of the title cards, the places were kind of very modern day in that they're
Yeah.
totally in your face. That's sort of a weird trend. But what I did like, very small detail. I like the portrayal of the kids. I like the kids. They didn't have bowl cuts. They seemed like kids. They didn't seem like they were out of central casting. Just a couple little guys, nephews
Yeah.
running around. They were kind of fun, and they struck me as sort of not really paying attention to the proceedings. And there was a couple other little performances there, but the final song, I mean, it was. I suspect you have something pointed to say about it, but
I just,
uh,
yeah.
it was kind of that light. I think I was watching with subtitles, so I think it was by an artist named Beachy, but it was sort of a lone guitar and female voice, or a piano perhaps as well. But the music was a little bit all over the place. It sounded like at the very start, it sounded like one of the true crime podcast soundtracks that I listened to. So. Which is kind of ill-fitting, but in any case, what did you think about the
I
final
was,
song?
and what in a movie that I was having a hard time, like it certainly grabbed my attention, but it seems so extremely out of place and
Yeah,
almost,
yeah,
you know what it reminded me of? Gauzy, gauzily shot late 70s movies,
no,
late 70s, early 80s, maybe with a message
yeah,
here on a very special episode of, uh, but like, I mean, I don't want to say after school kids, but this was based, it maybe the true crime thing is on point, Jim. I imagine these heartfelt, true story kind of a woman overcomes some tragedy and, but really almost, I don't want to knock the song specifically because I'm sure the artists put effort and everything, but it did feel like, oh, we need something there.
yeah,
Dunk. Like no
yeah,
thought, not didn't capture, like that song should capture the moment.
yeah.
And who knows, maybe it's because they're just the moment wasn't there to be captured. Uh
Well, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that. Take a look at the poster that we're showing on the screen right now. Does that poster to you convey anything that except for a few moments, perhaps, does it convey anything that the rest of the movie conveyed? Do you think?
that's a great
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I'm looking at the poster right now, and it seems like this, this sort of heavily emotional, but it's really quite a detached movie.
yeah,
And I don't get any of the feeling from that picture there that I experienced watching
yeah.
it. That's too seems a little bit off.
Yeah. No, I'm yeah, well, detached. It's, and I think you're even being kind. Like I said, in the end it bored.
Mm,
Because like if you're not with Anne right at the beginning, and I want to go back, I am wondering if they were taking, like I've done a lot of research since, and one writer actually described as what few letters we do have of Jane Austen's left was, just you could get the impression that she was a little hard-hearted and maybe a little judgy, um, and much like the Anne Elliot of this movie is little
mhm.
judgy, little snotty, you know, maybe not
Yeah.
hard-hearted, but you know, um, so maybe they were trying to, it kind of, and like I said to you, Jim, the other day, I was like, it's almost like that 30 Rock episode where Liz Lemon has this idea of how she was this picked upon,
Mhm,
outsider, and
mhm.
everyone was mean to her when in actuality she was a jerk. And so
Yeah.
that could have been it. But then if that's what it was, these filmmakers totally missed on that attempt,
Mhm,
you know?
mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Certain lines too, when she talked about her sister. Her sister doesn't even listen to her. I dropped some Italian words, and it wasn't until I said "past the sale" that she noticed I was speaking Italian, and that was just sort of an eye roller there. Like,
And then she does it. Like, this is the
yes,
thing.
yeah,
This is the crazy thing about this terrible film. It's like, why are you telling us this? Shouldn't you be showing us? Oh, now you're showing us. You know, there's a lot of that going on in this film.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
Um, uh,
tell, don't show. That old writing rule.
I'm sure that's what you learned in writing school, Jim.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
exposition before action.
especially right before the action that's about to take place. Make sure you
Yes,
got
yes.
everyone so there's no surprises. Don't want anyone experiencing this emotionally.
Nope,
Yeah.
nope. Hands off.
Okay, Jim. Now, we are, of course, on Sunday. We're going to actually be doing a much deeper dive. We are going to have a
Sure.
guest, our friend Catherine, late of Ottawa. Catherine Johansson. She's actually going to be dialing in from British Columbia, where she's now relocated in Kamloops. So that's going to be wonderful. So, folks, as much as I want to talk more about this movie, I'm gonna have to hold myself till Sunday. But do you have anything else for our audience before we let we let them go?
Yeah, just anything else about the movie? Nothing. I mean, I might want to save it till Sunday. I was actually thinking of watching Fire Island and, and comparing those two, because apparently that's based on Persuasion and is a hell of a lot more charming.
Not on
So,
Persuasion, but on Pride and Prejudice.
oh, is it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
but
okay.
is yeah
Well,
supposedly.
forget that then.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, there have been good modernizations. Yeah, Fire
Mhm.
Island. Folks, for those of you who don't know, Island is based on a New York City area, like I don't want to say New England, American Northeast, uh, uh, gay resort, or it can get a little spicy. That's why it's called Island, not you know Snow Amongst the Cedars Island.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, so and from what I've read, a great interpretation of Pride and Prejudice while being modern. But we can go back 20 years, 30 years, and
Mhm.
Clueless was an excellent update of Emma. Um, oh yes, one more complaint, but we'll get into the details on Sunday. Yeah,
Sure.
in a film that, or in a book, and even other films have done it better. Here, you never get the class stuff. Like, it's almost ignored. Like, it's just something
Mhm.
the filmmakers seemed to be not interested in, which is such an important subtext to Austen's work. And like, they must have worked hard to get that out, because other
Yeah.
films either lean into it, or they're like, okay, we don't want to get too political, but they still understand it's important, and you still kind of can get that impression. Not in this version, although maybe
Yeah.
it was there and I was just too bored. All right, everybody. Yeah, so Sunday night, you want to hear us run this one down and perhaps sing the praises of a couple of other adaptations. Uh, we will also get in the historicity of it, and where you can find out more to understand better the historical, political, and economic context where these books came from. So, better to understand some of the gags and some of the conflicts and why certain things are happening, that why they're so important, um, and why they'd be so important to Jane Austen and those who read Jane Austen. Anything else we want to, am I forgetting anything, Jim? Other than, of course, one more opportunity to beg for a like, subscribe, and a ring of that bell.
I hope you all have been able to appreciate the traffic sounds going past the parking lot. There's little bit of late night traffic here in Winnipeg.
Well, that's the nature of the beast. All right, everybody. Gonna just wave goodbye as I bring up our fancy new please note our fancy new logo.
See you, folks.
Okay, good night, everybody.